At this hour, peace talks are underway in Egypt, the second day of peace talks. Key negotiators from Israel, Hamas, and the U.S. are meeting to discuss President Trump's 20-point plan to end the war in Gaza, all of it happening exactly 2 years after Hamas launched the horrific October 7th terror attacks on Israel, attacks that killed 1,200 people in Israel. On that day, 2 years ago, 250 people were taken hostage by Hamas. Of the 48 who remain in Gaza now, just 20 are still believed to be alive. Joining me right now is Ruby Henn. His son, Itai, is the youngest U.S. hostage, American hostage, taken by Hamas. Ruby, it is good to see your face on this day, and it's good, again, to see the images of Itai right there with you. How are you feeling today on this horrible anniversary, first and foremost? I mean, where is your heart and your head at this moment?
Yeah, it's a very complex day. It's been 732 days since I last talked to my son. We had a lot of thoughts where would be the place to be. We actually thought about being in Washington, maybe even jumping to Cairo. But we thought that, being with family, with all the other families here in Tel Aviv made the most sense for us.
Yeah. President Trump had said yesterday, the way he put it is that he thinks that Hamas is agreeing to things that are very important. And he says, I really think we will get a deal done. After 2 years and so much talk of talks, does this time feel different for you?
It does a bit. 2 weeks ago, the president came with his peace plan at the UN. And we also saw the involvement of Mr. Jared Kushner, who was successful in the past in building an international coalition with Arab states to create the Abraham Accords. So him and Mr. Witkoff, they're now, as we speak, I think they landed in Cairo. But on the other hand, Kate, I'll share in May, when Idan Alexander, the U.S. citizen from Tenerife, came out, we had high hopes that Mr. Witt would be able to bring out all of the U.S. citizens. And when he met us, he took me and my wife aside and he looked us in the eye and he said, I apologize. It just wasn't your time. And we pray to God that, Mr. Witkoff, now in Cairo, that it is our time and that it is our time to be reunited with our son after 2 long years.
I think that your voice today is one of the most important. I mean, what do you want to make sure, and what do you want those negotiators, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, all of those involved, what do you want everyone negotiating this right now, this time, to hear from you?
Yeah, so the fact that the president was able to convince the mediators to front load the release of the hostages is, indeed what we want to see. I'll share maybe another incident that we were in Doha, in Qatar, in January at the beginning of the year. And, we were in front of Brett McGurk at the time at the Four Seasons Hotel. And I asked him, why is it that the deal that is happening with those hostages coming out, how is it that all of the U.S. citizens are not part of the first phase of the deal? And he promised to me and said, look, if we have the first phase, we're going to get your kid out in the second phase. And we know that happened. And Mr. Trump, he's been very focused on America First policy, which includes prioritizing the release of U.S. citizens from wherever it might not be. Just last week, we saw a U.S. citizen that was released in Afghanistan that was held by the Taliban. And I pray to God, and what I want the president and his team to know, that this time all of the U.S. citizens, they need to come out. And it can't wait for a second phase or whatever it might not be. I think after 2 years as a U.S. taxpayer, I think it's time for the administration, as it has in the past, emphasizes the U.S. citizens that are still in captivity, including my son, the youngest U.S. citizen that was taken out of the 12 hostages initially. And I just would also like to remind you that out of those 1,200 people that were killed by Hamas, 47 of them were U.S. citizens. And that, also, those people are seeking justice as well.
Your son, Itai, he was killed and abducted by Hamas on October 7th. What will it mean to have Itai back to you, even if it also does mean planning a funeral?
So, we still have some hope. Actually, Kate, what we were notified is based on intelligence. There was nothing physical associated to the data that we got. So, you could always think maybe there was a doctor, maybe he got to a hospital, maybe something, is still possible. At least that's what keeps me and my wife getting up in the morning. And even if we are going to get the bad news, and that's what's going to be waiting for us. For us, it's very important to remove that doubt. And he is no less of a hostage, even if that is the case, than any other one. And for us, it is extremely important to get him back and be able to have that closure that anyone should have, especially my son, again, as a U.S. citizen that was on the battlefield, and he protected a lot of people, saved a lot of lives. That, I think, is the dignity that he deserves, and the one that I, as a father, needs to provide him. That's kind of like how we see it.
Absolutely. Rubicon, thank you very much for coming on any day, but especially on a very, very hard day and tragic anniversary like this. I really appreciate it.
Today marks 2 years since the Hamas attack on Israel. 1,200 people died and more than 250 hostages captured. 20 of them are still believed to be alive. And it's what began the ensuing war in Gaza, with Israeli forces killing more than 66,000 Palestinians since that time. That's according to Gaza's health ministry. Right now, talks to finalize a Gaza ceasefire deal are underway in Egypt. Delegations from Hamas and Israel are present for indirect negotiations. An official told CNN the discussions are expected to take a few days, with mediator teams from the U.S., Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey on site. Smoke rises over Gaza this morning in the meantime as Israeli airstrikes continue. This is despite those negotiations. President Trump said Monday that Hamas is making important concessions as negotiators work towards a final agreement.
We have just about every nation working on this deal and trying to get it done, something that you could say 3,000 years if you look at it in certain ways, or you could say centuries, but this is a deal that incredibly everyone just came together. They all came together. No, Israel's been great. I think we're doing very well, and I think Hamas has been agreeing to things that are very important.
Joining me now is the former Israeli Consul General for New York, Ambassador Elon Pincus. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Audie. Good to be with you.
So you've heard in the introduction, I described a couple different things, right? Discussions, negotiations, debate, starting point, and the president paints it with such a rosy picture. What's your assessment of where things stand right now?
Well, there are two ways of looking at it, Audie. One is to dissect this document, find flaws and deficiencies and ambiguities in every one of the 20 points in it and say, this can't work, this is unimplementable, not viable. The other way of looking at it is to say, this is the best shot everyone has. And this is the only plan that's on the table. And this is the only game in town. And if either side or both sides screw this up, it's on them and not on President Trump. And if you look at the document, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. You were a former Israeli consul general for New York at one point. I mean, help me understand the politics for Netanyahu. Does this feel like the only game in town with him? He's not moving into a ceasefire mode right now?
No, he's not. And I'm happy you raised this because it's the most important issue. There is no ceasefire. And you would expect a ceasefire on two levels. One, because Trump twice asked Israel to stop the bombardments, and Israel did not, in complete defiance of the president's request. And the second is perhaps a more intangible, and that is goodwill. If you plan to implement in good faith a 20-point, a problematic, but nonetheless a 20-point workable plan, logic says, common sense dictates that you begin with a ceasefire. If you are shot at, by all means, shoot back. But at least announce even a unilateral ceasefire, even if it is not stipulated in the agreement. And there is no ceasefire. And so, as for Mr. Netanyahu, look, Audie, he did not want this agreement. He was cornered into it by President Trump, who became disillusioned with him, impatient with him, and tired with his excuses and manipulations and stalling. I think that the inflection point, the point where Trump really lost his nerve, was the Israeli attack on Qatar on September 9th. That failed attack against a U.S. ally, supposedly a country with which the Trump family and its orbit have a lot of business dealings. And Israel never apologized, never bothered to explain itself. And that, I think, made the difference. But the question now is, how committed will Trump remain?
One last question. We've focused so much on Netanyahu, but what about people in Israel? Are they war weary? I've heard that Trump is very popular with the domestic population there. So are they aligning with Trump here about trying to bring this to a close, or the hardliners with Netanyahu?
Oh, 100% they're aligned with Trump. I mean, the sympathy for Trump is because people intuitively or, viscerally understand that he's at least trying to free the hostages, whilst Netanyahu hasn't, at least for the 9 months that Trump has been in the White House. You see in consistent polls that 70%, almost 70%, 70, support the end of the war and a hostage deal. Netanyahu is extraordinarily unpopular, and people hedge their bets on Trump remaining committed and engaged. As for the general mood, it's dejection, it's still devastation, it's still agony. Look, Israel lost 2,000 people, Audie. That's the equivalent of the U.S. losing 70,000 people. That's more than the number of casualties in the Vietnam War, which was 58,000. So this is a very devastating period it has been a very devastating period for Israel, and people want this to end.
Okay, Ambassador Elam Pinkas, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Audie.
Well, we start in Israel today with people there pausing to reflect and mourn as they mark 2 years of heartache and war. Memorial sirens rang out for the second anniversary of the October the 7th attacks of 2023 in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv and at the site of the Nova Music Festival, one of the worst sites of the onslaught by Hamas. In total, more than 1,200 people were killed that day and more than 250 hostages were taken by Hamas and others. 48 of those captives remain in Gaza, 20 of them believed to be alive. Well, this anniversary, of course, happening at a crucial time for negotiations to end the Gaza war and to bring those hostages home. The families of the missing are hopeful, but they are not letting up in their own fight to reunite with their loved ones, as CNN's Jeremy Diamond reports.
For 2 years, they have been fighting. For sons taken hostage, for daughters killed at a music festival, and for the future of a country at a crossroads. 2 years later, Hamas's October 7th attack and the war it unleashed still define this small country. Vicky Cohen knows that all too well.
Hello, Vicky. Hi.
Her son is still being held in Gaza, and she is at the forefront of the hostage families movement, demonstrating in front of the Prime Minister's home, inside Parliament, and in weekly Saturday night protests.
This is another Saturday night.
Yeah, but it feels different.
Feels different,
yeah.
Huh?
On the night we join her, the whole country is buzzing about a possible deal to free all of the hostages.
And it's a mix of feelings. It's excitement, it's expectation, it's also fear.
This video shows the moment that changed everything. Her 19-year-old son, Nimrod, conscripted for mandatory military service, being pulled from an Israeli tank on the Gaza border and taken captive.
So this is the Rubik's Cube that was in the tank.
The real one that was found in the tank. He used to take it wherever he go.
Heading to another rally, Cohen cannot help but feel hopeful. But she is determined to keep fighting.
We will still fight and do everything we did before till it's settled, till it's final, till they are at home.
Cohen wasn't always at the forefront of the protest movement, but she ramped up her fight after losing faith in her government.
So many other families realized that we need to be more polite, less polite, and be more aggressive with the fight.
She soon realized she had real power.
I heard for so many people who told me, I heard you are asking and you are calling for us to come, and we will come. We are coming because of you. This is so important.
These rallies are where Vicky found her voice and where she found a community to fight alongside.
Saturday nights in Israel have represented a chance for the hostage families to raise their voices week after week with the support of so many Israelis. Vicky and her son are just about to go on stage.
Today, I was filled with excitement, anticipation, and great hope, but also, she tells the crowd, concern. The Israeli Prime Minister was speaking while Vicky was on stage.
Did Netanyahu say something?
Yeah, he said that he hopes that they can be returned during Sukkot.
The hostages?
He said the goal is to limit negotiations to a few days. He doesn't want it to be dragged out.
They thought they're going to be safe here.
Sigal and Menashe Mansouri are also still fighting.
We just know that they went to a festival and they never came back. And we do know that their last couple hours were hell.
2 years after their daughters were slaughtered inside this bomb shelter, they are fighting for answers and accountability.
We're looking for is the truth.
We want to know the truth in a legal way, in a decent way, in a respectful way. We want to know what led us to October 7th. We want to know how come the IDF didn't respond for so many hours.
The couple helped found the October Council, pushing for an independent commission of inquiry to investigate Israel's failures that helped lead to October 7th.
But 2 years later, can you believe that you still have to fight for all of this? Did you think this fight would last this long?
No, you know what? It's even more than that. I didn't think that we'll have to fight for this.
But the Israeli Prime Minister has refused, claiming the commission would be biased.
When you have nothing to hide, you just, how come you're so against it? I mean, why are you trying to fight it?
Do you believe that a state commission of inquiry will ever be set up while Prime Minister Netanyahu remains in office?
No.
Most likely, and unfortunately, no.
The state of Israel need to have the truth about what happens.
Along the border where Hamas militants stormed into Israel, the devastation wrought by Israel's subsequent attacks on Gaza is unmistakable. Here, the fight for Israel's character and its future are also on display.
We came to the fence today, as close as we can to Gaza, to say that not all Israelis support the genocide, not all Israelis are supporting the starvation of Gaza.
Others have come to see and revel in the destruction.
No Arabs supposed to be next to us here.
So you want Gaza razed to the ground?
No Gaza.
No Gaza.
All the building. I see a couple buildings there. It's empty. I want this flat. If you ask me, Trump want to build a base here, you're welcome.
Some would say that's genocide or that's ethnic cleansing.
No, it's not genocide.
For Vicky Cohen, whether Israel prioritizes a deal to free the hostages or a forever war in Gaza will also define its future.
It's a fight of something bigger than to release the hostages. It's something very basic that of the Jewish community here in Israel, that we care for each other. We don't sacrifice the lives for the land.
Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Jerusalem.
Well, official October the 7th commemorations in Israel won't take place until next week. The government plans to recognise the anniversary according to the Hebrew calendar. Meanwhile, condolences and statements of support have been pouring in from around the world. And in the US later today, President Trump will meet with Eden Alexander, who is an Israeli-American hostage who was released by Hamas in May. While Israelis do mark today's tragic anniversary, indirect ceasefire talks, of course, between Israel and Hamas have entered their second day. Egyptian state media report negotiations began Monday amid a positive atmosphere, they say. US President Donald Trump tells CNN that Hamas, quote, has been agreeing to things that are very important. Trump's 20-point plan aims to set conditions for a lasting peace in Gaza. Implementing parts of it, though, of course, face resistance from both Hamas and by hardliners in Israel. Inside Gaza, Israeli attacks continue despite President Trump's call for Israel to stop the bombing. Health officials in Gaza report more than 67,000 deaths now there since the war began. Well, Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid spoke a short time ago with my colleague Oren Lieberman at a Tel Aviv commemoration of today's anniversary. This is part of their conversation.
The fact that President Trump has put all his weight into threw all his weight into the arena, saying, I'm going to make this happen, is a cause for optimism. One would think that the Israeli government should have done this long time ago, but as it is, right now, there is more. It's a somber day today. But I don't want to wallow into self-pity of any kind. So we are hopeful. We want to see what's going on in Egypt coming through, and we want this to happen. And there's more than a hint of optimism in the air, even in this sad day.
The issues, however, are the same issues. Questions about disarmament, questions about governance of Gaza, prisoners. Are those issues any closer to being solved, do you believe?
Yes, I think the 20 points plan that President Trump and his team put on the table is tangible and doable, and I think everybody understands it. And this, and the fact that countries like Turkey has moved themselves into this arena is also positive in terms of the hostage deal. So yes, it is more doable than it was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago.
2 years later, negotiators from Israel and Hamas will meet for a second day of indirect talks today, exactly 2 years after Hamas launched the October 7th terror attacks that killed 1,200 people in Israel, attacks that also then set off a brutal war that killed tens of thousands of Palestinians and left much of the territory in rubble. 250 people were taken hostage by Hamas on that day. 48 of them remain in Gaza now, only 20 of which are still believed to be alive. But there is new hope for them and everyone in the region. President Trump, who proposed the latest peace plan being discussed, says that there has been, in his words, tremendous progress in those talks. CNN's international diplomatic editor Nick Robertson is in Egypt where these talks are taking place. Nick, what are you hearing?
Yeah, a number of things. The talks are continuing amid a positive conversation so far. That's according to Egyptian state media. The Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesman, of course, their mediators along with Egypt in all of this, say that the talks lasted for 4 hours last night. There's an extraordinary amount of secrecy, by the way, around these talks, even according to some Hamas sources in Gaza. Senior sources there are telling us that even they are not getting a lot of detail, if any detail, about what's happening. Very little being said, but what we have got from Hamas today is a rough description of what they say happened yesterday. They say that yesterday the mediators met with both sides, with Hamas, with Israel. The mediators were just listening to what both sides had to say. And Hamas say today is the first day, when the actual negotiations begin, where the sides begin potentially listening to what the mediators say the other side has said and potentially changing their positions. It is a very slow process. That's what we've been told to expect. And I think an interesting detail that we heard from Hamas, which may sort of set the tone from what goes on inside the room there, they say 3 of their delegation in the negotiation, 3 members were in that house in Qatar that Israel targeted in an airstrike almost a month ago. So you kind of get a sense of the lack of trust that may exist across these sort of separate tables where the discussions are going on. So very little detail, but the real negotiations happening now, positive atmosphere, a second day of the talks, the Qatari officials saying they have no idea what the outcome will look like. Kate?
Nick Robertson, thank you so much. It's great to see you.